Hello and welcome to the Quantum Bridge. Slightly different environment for me.
It is,
and
Very
Gary's
nice.
quick off the mark over there. I'm not turning this over to you immediately.
No.
I've got things to say. So because he's dragged me onto this kicking and screaming, I'm welcoming you all. I'm very, very, very happy you're here. Not so happy I'm here. But anyway, it's always lovely to be in the presence of greatness. So, Gary, over to you, mate. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping we could come with a little bit more excitement, maybe, but we still felt it was, well, he's disappeared. There's a bit of a black cloud over the UK. It's represented by a cat here.
Yeah, Churchill had a dog that did that.
Yeah.
We've got a lovely little cat today.
That's it.
Called Tilly.
Tilly. So, so whilst it was Independence Day yesterday in America, it was an election day.
Well done, guys. Anything to get rid of the Brits. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, we did kick some out yesterday in our general election, which, you know, who knows why. It didn't need to be called, but it was called, and it was called for the 4th of July, so there's obviously some symbology here. If we'll ever find out, I don't know. But I would say that's significant that for some reason we got the July the 4th, which is the Independence Day for the Americans, and they have a November the 5th election. Whilst it wasn't an Independence Day for us, it was rather a memorable one that, to do with our country here and attempting to take back control.
Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes, yeah. So some symbol.
Or V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Depends how you see it.
Yeah,
V for Vendetta, Guy Fawkes.
V for Vendetta as well, yeah. Similar same sort of thing. So yes, it's a little bit, well, I think I could say that we woke up not on a great high, but we sort of brushed that aside now and back on the path to enlightenment, maybe. Somewhat.
Again, not that boring old thing.
That's it.
I'm trying to hide from enlightenment.
Yeah, no, I know. Anyway, the sun's come out now, so that's some sort of enlightenment. So, I've got a few little things, a bit of data and intel for once. We don't do this stuff, do we?
No, we don't do intel or data.
But
we go with gut feeling and intuition. I think you're on the wrong show, mate.
I know I'm on the wrong show. Data. Who needs this? Right. Anyway, just a little
mainstream media's calling you.
Overview of what's happened in the UK election. So I've got a post here from X, which was Majid Nawaz. It basically says the UK electoral system is not fit for purpose. Yeah. So the Reform Party, that is Nigel Farage's party, for example, got 4 million votes and only 4 seats. And the Liberal Democrat Party got 3.4 million votes and 69 seats. So you can already see votes don't make seats necessarily in our system.
Yeah, don't make prizes.
They don't make prizes necessarily. So Labour won 2/3 of the seats with only 1/3 of the national vote.
The other thing is, I don't know if you've got this data or just a gut feeling about this, but I don't think that many people turned up.
Correct. Right. It was a low turnout. Yeah, overall, right. Yes. Is that good or bad? Good in...
Well, it's a reflection on whether the system itself, people are starting to feel that it's so broken that whatever they do, the left-right dialectic, the sort of left-wing, right-wing, chicken wing, you know, the whole thing of it not serving any agenda other than the agenda of the people in quote unquote power. I use that term advisedly, but yeah, no,
it keeps them in power, doesn't it? Yeah. I guess if you look at it in this way, then bringing up that point of the people that didn't vote or voted for other parties outside of Conservative Labour, sort of thing, yeah. So actually, including whatever. So roughly 80% of UK citizens did not vote for this government. So it goes to show.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so you could say it's a weak government in that sense. They've won a massive majority, but it's kind of like you say, the system perpetuates this two-party thing.
It's funny though. Did you? I don't know if you were watching some of this last night. I know you did, and I watched a little before. It just bored me to sleep,
Yeah,
which is sort of quite nice in a way. But anyway, this sort of lockstep of the media around terms like a landslide victory. I mean, that was coming out, basically before anything seemed to have been counted, as far as I could work it out. And but more importantly than that, because maybe you could argue I'm wrong about that, it's fine. But
well,
that was how it felt to me. But what cannot be argued with is that narrative was parroted via all of our media, pretty much, certainly all of our mainstream media. It was literally the same words verbatim, and that in itself, I'd hope, is enough for the awakened. Of course, will notice that anyway, but even hopefully those that are just thinking something is rotten may have seen that or reflect on that and think, bit odd, isn't it, that the same phrase literally just rolled out across every news outlet.
To add to that, the Conservatives pretty much posting every hour a countdown of 10 hours or 11 hours to stop, 10 hours to stop, 9 hours to stop a Labour supermajority. So all
Right, yeah.
Again, it's putting that,
still,
putting that, even that it's kind of a negative thing for your own. All you're saying is to stop the other guy again. This whole narrative of fear and negativity, and maybe
well, also the negativity in terms of creating that. I mean, you put this out into the public consciousness enough, and if you do subscribe, as I do, to the fact that your words create your experience, then hearing that and then repeating that to those around you, or even back to yourself as a type of mantra, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And to be fair to them, I don't like the current power structure, but at the same time, they sort of know what they're doing on it's not a very pleasant level. It's not exactly 5D and beyond, is it? But in terms of sort of cheap shot magic, they've got some abilities.
Yeah, I was trying to counter that somewhat online with my little voice in there, because every time they were saying this supermajority thing, I said, it's inevitable. I was like, it's not inevitable. I would try and counter that. It's not that, nothing had been counted yet, right? So
yeah.
I was trying to counter that narrative, that magic, in a little way.
And you will have done, those ripples. It may not have been a tsunami that immediately overturned that narrative and that public consciousness, but I don't think it'll take much to push back at this, particularly what you're saying about 80% of people didn't vote for a government that evidently had I won't use the term slide. I'll call it a slide.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, in percentage terms, again, Labour won 65% of parliamentary seats with just 34% of the vote. I mean, an interesting one from, I would say, the sort of Labour supporting side, saying that Labour has not won. The Tories lost, the SNP lost, and Reform and the Greens have made gains. But Labour has not won the hearts and the minds. And I think this maybe is where Kaspa and I want to look at that in the sense of that's where the real change comes from, is within inside the people. So whilst it would be very nice to have that represented, manifested on in the physical in front of us, but it's maybe that's going to take a while. I don't know. But you can't change how the people are feeling. That's the main thing. And Reform came something like second in 98 seats or something. Yeah, very close, and they've only been going. Well, although the party's been around for a while, it really took Farage to step back in and re-energize everything and give, I suppose, maybe for a lot of people who wouldn't have voted at all, it gave them a place to go to and vent, if you like.
Yeah, I think that anything
An outlet.
yeah, there's a shake-up of the left-right sort of dialectic, that thing of there's only two choices. I mean, ultimately, it's purely, this has been said by many, not just by me, but it is a process of you can select, you can't elect. You're not generally putting up people that most of us want to go out and vote for,
Yeah.
right? So whether the voting is or isn't right and all of those other aspects, well, it's fundamentally broken because, there's no ability to really, for many of us, vote for anybody that we really would want to vote for. And everybody having to think about, whether they do it or not, about this thing of tactically voting. There was a huge amount of tactical voting, it seems to me, this time. And, that, again, that shouldn't really be necessary.
No.
The system itself, to me, is just so fundamentally flawed.
There's another little bit of data from Sophie Ridge, I believe, it's at Sky News. So, the Labour has won 2/3 seats with 1/3 of the vote. As it stands, Labour's vote share is the lowest to have secured a majority, let alone a landslide. To put in context, David Cameron got a higher share of the vote when there was a hung parliament in 2010. So it's pretty nuts, really. And you've got a huge proportion of the population that is not represented in any way.
Yeah.
How that plays out, we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know how much any of this will mean to any of our audience in the US, other than there are some direct parallels with what you guys have been through and are now going through and sort of coming into. And I just hope, I mean, all we can really do, because neither of us are particularly political, but what we certainly are is about heart and sort of goodness, fundamentally. And to watch a broken system, I'm not really that bothered about who did win, actually, or didn't win. I'm more concerned that, in a higher dimensional or higher frequency sort of escapade, or this type of outcome where 80% of your populace are either completely unhappy about the result or certainly aren't pleased about it, doesn't feel like a sort of high vibe way forward to me.
No, I do have a quote from Donald Trump. He posted, well, he's on his Truth Social, I guess. Congratulations to Nigel Farage on his big win of a parliament seat. Amid Reform UK election success, Nigel is a man who truly loves his country. DJT. So you could say on the political stage, those guys are fairly aligned. He did put win in capital letters as well. And it has taken, I can't remember how many times, something like 8 times for Nigel to get a seat in Parliament. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I say, we've got a few in there. I mean, does any of it really matter? I guess for me and you, it sort of doesn't. It's
no. I think this is going to play out ultimately quite differently from what we're seeing now anyway. I know that you believe that, and I think a lot of the sort of people who are going to even spend the time watching our content are hopefully going to be on the frequency of they're manifesting their own reality. They're not a victim to an external reality. And I think that's sort of where I'd like to leave that all of us are already manifesting our reality. And if you want it to be quote unquote better or more palatable or a smoother ride, it's for you to change internally and get that reflection on the outside. So it's a great time actually for us to all sort of reflect, whether this really touches you or not, whether you're in the UK or not, on the fact that these external events, they might sting for a moment, but there's no point dropping your vibe, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the sting, and I'm like, come on, get back on your path. It's interesting, but maybe in some way we've seen, these things just have to play out. We've seen the Conservatives who felt they had some sort of right to rule forever, just that's all backfired. And maybe if we look in terms of duality and right wings and conservatives and all this sort of stuff, that maybe the right side of politics is somewhat more awake to the systems and moving away from that, which is why you've seen that side collapse. And are we moving into a point now where the sort of lefties are going to have their little moment, find out that their guy isn't the Messiah, and they put all their power and hope into this moment, and it's just as crap. and with those, then both sides collapsing, we get some unity. I hope. Yeah.
We get the bridge.
We get the bridge. Yeah. When I think someone pointed out that there are events that need to take place, like we saw in the US, I guess, with Biden put front and forward stage. Was we always going to face a World War scenario, at least play out in some way? And do you need a fall guy to, in our case now with Keir Starmer, to take that flak and to expose what they're really about? Not peaceful do-gooders, as they sort of say. So, yeah, interesting times, but I suppose it's like I say, we should be thankful that a lot of people have shifted, and that, whilst that's not representative in the Parliament, it is in the people's hearts, and that's where it counts, in that sort of energy and frequency. You can't take that bit away. Many people have shifted away from that two-party system. So one side of it has completely collapsed, and the other side is, well, it's barely standing still. Might look it, but it's very weak. So I think next week could be interesting. We just have to see how it plays out. There's lots of talk, conspiracies, things about Biden getting out of there. I guess, again, we look at markers and momentum, don't we? So we should just point in there, whether you love him or hate him. Andrew Tate has been, the judge has now said he's free to leave Romania, at least. He's not captured there. So we have some players on the table leaving and some entering. So a shift, I guess, in some ways. And how does that?
Yeah, he's out of Romania and roaming instead, roaming around.
Yes.
Where will he be? What will he do? I think that we need all of these pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah.
There is also the left-right brain sort of thing as well. This thing of the hemispheres, of being too far on the analytical or too sort of head in the clouds.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some parallels around that left-right dialectic that we're seeing out in the world, which are actually more parallel or probably more important in terms of our own thinking process and our own feeling processes, and the masculine and feminine, so the yin and the yang. So not wanting to go down that route too far, because it's another conversation that we could have with somebody like Franco, or maybe with Dennis and so on. There's others
but
too.
We have had that, the parallel worlds with Franco, and I think if people haven't watched that, it's a good time again to remember that these realities are going to be available for people to choose, even if they want to choose what we might perceive as a negative or a bad one, or they are. they've got to be there, if you like, for people to be able to make that choice.
Well, just a longer journey home. I mean,
Yes, that's correct.
Dennis in the 5D put
Mm.
that right. You know, that nobody's judging that
Yeah.
you're doing something wrong if you take the longer journey home.
Yeah, you can't do anything wrong, essentially. You know, it's like you say, it's just different route. So probably two interesting things for people to watch: that 5D with Dennis Bullock and Parallel Worlds with Franco Romero, to sort of get a gist of where we would be coming from, at least on that higher perspective.
Yeah.
And
choose your path carefully, and that goes for both of us.
It does go for both of us as well. Yeah, stay, choose your path. Try and stick on it. Not get swayed by this stuff going on externally. I find when I can stay detached from it and not stuck to a specific outcome of any sort, then I can look at it and laugh, actually. Yeah. Although, like I said, you do get those moments where you're like, but at least I don't spend years in those doldrums anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's a massive thing. It's a massive thing.
Yeah, it is. I can turn those around pretty quick. I think that's something to be said to that. Because before you'd be like, you know, these sorts of events would just drag you down and down and down and down. If you can turn those around a bit quicker, say, okay, let's have a nice bit of tea and cake or something.
On the road again.
Yeah, on the road again. So we'll see how things go. We may or may not revisit this. We'll see how next week goes. Yeah,
and also we might do, if Franco's amenable to it, we'll ask him. He may or may not have the time or inclination, but if he does, we'll try and do a live with him as well shortly. So that's maybe something for people to look out for, because a lot of people engaged and watched his material, which is great.
They do, yeah. Yeah, we've got a few things on the go. We're going to do a separate video about some of the other content that's going to be coming on the channel, because Ian, Kaspa and myself, we are quite creative.
Incredibly creative.
Incredibly creative. It's been hidden from the world for years.
Maybe for good reason.
Yeah, maybe for good reason, but it's a good time for everybody to be putting their creative things out and aligning with their true passions and purposes. So it's something we're going to try and push again on the channel. Yeah, and mainly also just to encourage other people to bring all their talents out, because we know that everybody has got a reason to be here and a path, and many people have not even had a tiny chance to show the amazing things that are dwelling within them. So even if it just does that, promotes other people to decide that they'll give what they really love a try, that would be in itself a big thing. Amazing. Yeah. Okay, mate, thank you. All right, pleasure. Lovely to see you. Take care, everyone. Till next time. Yep. Back on the bridge. Take care. Bye now. Good night.